There is fiction in the space between the lines on your page of memories. Write it down, but it doesn't mean you're not just telling stories. There is fiction in the space between you and reality. You will do and say anything to make your everyday life seem less mundane. There is fiction in the space between you and me. There's a science fiction in the space between you and me. The fabrication, the grand scheme. I am the scary monster. I eat the sin as I leave the scene. In my spaceship, I am laughing. Your remembrance of your bad dream. There's no one but you standing. Be the pity and the blame for the ones who do not speak. Write the words that get respect and compassion, and for posterity. Write the words that make believe that it's true in the space between. There is fiction in the space between you and everybody. Give us all what we need. Give us one more sad sort of story. In the fiction of the space between. Sometimes a lie is the best thing. Sometimes a lie is the best thing. Oh, the best thing. Is the best thing.
Welcome everyone and good morning. This is early. It was funny when I got assigned this time, I was like, oh yeah, 8 o'clock is fine. I'm usually up. But it was like, whoa, this is 8 o'clock, time to rise and shine. Welcome to our Sonder Social this morning. We are going to look at 21 things in 2021, your year in review. I'm Maya Martin Glenn. I am here in Aurora, Colorado, where it's chilly, but it's not too bad this morning. And with me is my stage manager, Jennifer Ogilvie. She'll kind of pop on and wave.
Good morning from
morning.
Texas.
How's the weather there? Is it nice this morning?
It's chilly. We're in the 30s this morning, but I get to wear a sweater. Welcome, everybody.
Nice. Thank you, Jennifer. Jennifer will be helping me monitor the chat. So if you're having any technical issues or problems, questions, whatever, she'll be in there definitely making sure to kind of watch things. And I know I saw some folks are new to this is your first Sonder Social, so welcome. It's a little bit different from some of the other ones because this isn't really a journal prompt that's in your actual journal. It's something a little bit extra. So we have some of those. So sometimes when you see things like exclusive activity or something like that, we try to do some kind of different fun activities. And I know I see some of my regular folks that I see in these socials. So we're so happy to have you here. Couple housekeeping things. Make sure that you have your chat set to everyone. If not, the chat just goes to Jennifer and myself, and your Sonder fam can't see what you're saying. So make sure that you set it to everyone. And sometimes it's kind of obnoxious in iPads and phones because it flips back to the host and panelist every single time. So you have to kind of keep watching that. Oh, and someone's at an airport and their flight got delayed again. I am feel so bad for anybody who's having travel issues. It's definitely a struggle. I almost plan for that now anytime we go anywhere. The other thing is every Sonder Social that you attend, you will be entered to win our monthly self-care gift raffle. So every month, from all of our folks who attend the Sonder Socials, they're entered in to win. And usually you will see the winner it's called the Compass. It's our monthly newsletter that comes out, and it will profile the person who won that. So keep an eye out for that. I also like to point out, especially for our new folks, make sure that your Sonder emails are not going into your spam filters, or if you're on Gmail, that they're not going into the promotions folder where you're not seeing them. Sometimes they'll kind of hide away. So you should be getting, they usually send something out maybe like once a week. Sometimes they send just different like sales, different kinds of promotional things. They'll send things out like to notify you of the new Sonder Socials. So just make sure you're getting those emails and they're not disappearing somewhere. Lots of good information in there. So, and somebody's baby is asleep. We'll talk quietly. No, I'm assuming you have headphones or something to kind of keep baby sleeping. So, as you know, we are, this is January, and oh my gosh, can you believe it? We're halfway through January, cruising right on through. And this month's theme is imagination. So hopefully you've been really kind of thinking of how you can use your imagination to answer some of your journal prompts, really kind of thinking about how imagination plays a part in our everyday lives. So for today, for our hour together, we are going to do a little warm-up imagination exercise. Then we're going to do our 21 things in 2021, talk a little bit about the importance of reflecting, and then we'll close it on out. So our first activity is going to be a message in a bottle, right? And so what I want you to do, again, using your imagination, putting your thinking cap on, if you could write a message to your past self at whatever point in time in your life it would be. Maybe it was when you were younger, kiddo in elementary school. Maybe it was when you were a teen. Maybe it was when you, in your 20s. I know we have folks from all different ages here. So think about a time in the past where you could write yourself a message and give it to your past self. What might you say? So find a blank page in your journal, scratch paper. I always tell people like back of an envelope, sticky notes, whatever, because really it's that act of putting pen to paper and physically writing that helps us process a lot of our thoughts. And I also know that we have folks who have some fairly traumatic histories, right? And I want to just recognize that sometimes the activities that we do in our Sonder Socials can bring some of that up. And some of it is things that maybe we've wanted to kind of press down. We've been kind of ignoring. We don't want to think about it again. We don't want to relive that again. So if there's something that's coming to mind that's uncomfortable that you don't want to deal with, this really can be anything you want. But if it's anything we do is ever uncomfortable in this social or any other socials, just listen to the music. You can go to your coloring page. You can work on something else. This isn't a time, we don't want to necessarily make you feel so uncomfortable that you can't deal with it, but sometimes dealing with uncomfortable emotions is what lets us kind of move forward. So I'm going to play a little song, give you a little time to write, and then I'll pop back on and see how everything's doing. If you want to share your message, you want to share, I want to write a message to my past self when I was 10 years old, and I want to say this, please feel free to share that in the chat. All right, so put that pen to paper and we will be back. Whoops. Welcome back. I saw a lot of really kind of interesting messages that you were wanting to send younger selves. Jennifer, our Jennifer O here is saying she's going to be writing to her 11-year-old Jennifer and making sure she knows things are going to be okay. You will have your own family someday, and you will mother differently, changing your legacy. And I think that is really important, kind of thinking about how you can change things now going forward from what maybe you had in the past. Katie's saying, telling myself I will find love and it will be love like no other, and to cherish the time with family and friends. She lost her dad this past year, so hugs to you, Katie. And while I had some great times, I wish I had more, right? And I think that happens a lot. I know, today would have been Betty White's 100th birthday. And it's one of those things where I like the meme that says, live your life where being 99 years old wasn't long enough, right? You had more to do. So I think we all can think about, there's more that we want to do. There's more time that we want to spend with friends, time that we want to spend with family. Jessica's saying she would write to her 19-year-old self to start working on childhood trauma, learning to love myself ASAP, tell her she is worthy and her identity isn't the trauma she has incurred. Elise is saying to myself as a young mom, do all the things with your kids, get to yes when they want to do something, cherish every moment. So lots of really good writing to Nicole, writing to her 18-year-old self after her father has passed. I told myself to listen to my mother, right? I think that a lot. I think when I was younger, my parents knew nothing, right? Parents don't know anything. And then you get older and you're like, oh, I guess they did. I wish I knew everything now like I thought I did when I was 17 or 18, right? So definitely something that's a struggle. Honestly, one of the things that I would write to myself, I've kind of been thinking about this. I'm 52 now and, kind of thinking about retirement, maybe a little more. I work in education, so maybe I'm thinking a little more about retirement than I used to, but really thinking about I wish I would write a letter to myself and say, really think about this idea of pension with some companies that you were at that you probably could have stayed at a little bit longer so you could get some pension. Don't cash out that 401k when you have some hard financial times, those kinds of things. And I think it's something everybody tells you, right? Plan for your retirement. But I think sometimes we're not always in a good place to listen, right? So I think these are great, and really think about these things. What would you tell yourself, your younger self, how you can be able to kind of get through things, right? Because life can be tricky sometimes. And especially in these last few years, I think there's been a lot of reflection, a lot of folks really kind of thinking about what they want to be and what they want to do. So thank you for taking the time to do that, to write your, to write those down, tell your past self, those messages to your past self. So always a good exercise to kind of think about. So now we're going to get on to our main focus, which is the 21 things in 2021. And, it's funny, in 2020, before everything happened, but before everything happened in 2020, my husband and I were going to do this 20 places in 2020, and we were going to try to go to 20 new places, and we were keeping this list. And of course, then everything happened, and that kind of got pushed to the wayside. So sometimes it's fun to plan in the future, but it's also really good to think about and to reflect back. And, one of the things when you think about reflecting, you can really kind of think about that overview of the past year, right? Thinking about main events, thinking about action steps that you took, thinking about your reaction to things, right? I think that's one of the things, that they talk about is it's not so much the things that happen to you, it's how you react to the things that happen to you. So really kind of thinking, and Jessica has said she's kind of struggling with some negative emotions right now and she's going to leave. And, that is absolutely, I totally understand that. Sometimes coming on these socials and bringing some things up can be really tough. And I really want to thank you, Jessica, for honoring yourself and honoring your own emotions and realizing you need to take a little break. Sometimes we're not in a space where this is a good thing to do, right? And yeah, exactly. Being brave, being, taking care of yourself is very, very important. One of the things to think about is reflection really teaches us how to deal with similar situations better the next time, right? With a better understanding of how we're going to react, how we're going to feel about things, why we did something. Understanding that why we did something helps us decide if we need to modify the next time. So really kind of digging a little bit deeper into kind of what was going on. And I thought it was interesting. There was a study done in published in 2014. So it's probably done a little bit earlier than that at Harvard University, and looking at how reflection can help you with knowing your performance, knowing how you can do better, knowing how you can kind of change things. And so they found that employees performed 23% better after 10 days of reflection, right? So they would reflect each day after work, what went well, what maybe didn't go so well, what they might want to change for the next day. And after only 10 days of doing that, it really showed that their performance increased, right? And so that's a huge thing, right? Really kind of thinking about reflecting and making our experiences count. I think that's the other thing too. I don't know about you, but I have a tendency to be barreling through life, right? 100 miles an hour. I've got this, I've got my to-do list, crazy long, all these things that I've got to get done. And sometimes I don't really sit back and take time to reflect on what I did, what that looked like, right? And I saw some people, kind of talking about what did I do last year? One of the things, and I think Silk and Sonder really tries to work with this idea of reflection, right? We have the rose, bud, thorn activity. So you noticed in your journal this month, they added that at the end of each week, right? What was your rose? Something that went really, really well for you, something that was great. What's your bud? So something that maybe you're looking forward to, something that you're excited about. And then what's your thorn, right? Something that maybe has been problematic, something that you've been struggling with a little bit, something that maybe is a little frustrating. We also have the one thing at the top of each day. So this is a great time. I try to, in the evening, think of, okay, what's one thing that's kind of I don't know if big moment is the right thing, but one thing that kind of sticks out about the day, right? So maybe it's that I got to talk to a friend that I hadn't talked to for a while. Or maybe it was I saw a movie, or maybe it was I had a really good meal, right? So those kinds of things I will put in there. So again, it helps us stop kind of barreling through life and really learning from our experiences and taking into account all of the really wonderful experiences that we have, right? So what you're going to do, if you haven't already, while I'm babbling away, turn to a blank page in your journal, or again, scratch paper, notepad, whatever you want to write with. And you're going to number 1 through 21. I will tell you, and you'll see mine when I put that up in a little bit. If you do 1 through 21, you just have to kind of space well on the paper. Otherwise, you'll run out of room. So I think I had to put my kind of double up with my last 3. So again, could be a blank page in your journal, could be note page. And then you're going to think about 21 memories, learnings, and or reflections about the year 2021, right? So what kinds of things are coming up for you? What are you taking into this year, into this new year? And maybe more importantly, what are you leaving behind? What are you saying, you know what, that served its purpose in 2021, I'm not bringing that in to 2022. So, and some people touched on this, right? This idea of like, oh my gosh, I don't know what, like sometimes I'm lucky to remember what I had for breakfast that day. So as you're thinking, a great thing to do, and somebody mentioned it, right? Looking through their phone pictures, right? Scrolling through those phone pictures. If you're like me, mine automatically upload to the cloud. They upload to Google. Some people upload them to Amazon so that they don't have to take up space on their phone. So you can go to that and just kind of scroll through. It's a really nice, quick, like, oh yeah, I forgot that we, went on a hike here, or I forgot that we had a birthday party, or we did a Zoom thing, or, I did these different socials. You can also flip through your calendar. If you, I have my Google Calendar, so I can kind of scroll back through the months. It saves all of that stuff. So sometimes I can see things that I did there. And my Silk and Sonder journals, if you've been doing that for a while, those really are a treasure trove of looking back and seeing, especially like my daily to-do lists and meetings and those kinds of things I can look at and really reflect. Some people, when you think of learning, sometimes you can think of different quotes that you've read. I love to collect all those different fun quotes and kind of save those or write those down in my journal. So those are good to kind of reflect on what last year was like. And then one of the things that I also kind of have been working on when I talk with some folks is, what stories are you telling yourself about things that happened? Because we all tell ourselves stories, which is, I opened up the social with the Tracy Chapman song, Telling Stories, because that's kind of how humans relate to things, right? We tell ourselves stories about it. We are not good at just the facts, ma'am, right? That kind of idea of like, we just want to know the facts. We put our own biases, we put our own perceptions onto what we see and what we are doing and how we think people are acting or reacting to us. And oftentimes they're stories, right? They are not necessarily truths. So if you try, as you're thinking about things, what are the facts, right? And trying to separate those facts from the stories that we tell ourselves. And also being careful not to ruminate and to really just like fester in some of the bad things that happened. I think that's one of the things, as human beings, there have been lots and lots of studies that have shown we're really good at picking up and remembering the bad things that happen. And we're not so good about remembering the good things that happened. There's a really fun TED Talk where there's a professor kind of talking about how she noticed, even herself, she would get her course evaluations back. And they would be these great course evaluations, and there'd be one comment that would say something about how they didn't like it. And she would just perseverate on that particular comment. Or she submits papers to be published, and like 5 papers will get accepted, but 1 paper will get rejected. And she will just ruminate and perseverate and just like focus on why didn't this one get accepted? I must not be any good, and ignoring the fact that 5 did get accepted. And that's kind of just how we're wired. We're wired to pick up on those bad things because kind of evolutionary speaking, it's kind of we need to know the bad things, like, oh, don't go over there. There's an animal that will attack you. Don't eat those berries because those made your friend sick, right? So we remember the bad things because they're kind of that warning. But now we need to kind of change things up a little bit and really push ourselves to think about things a little bit differently. And that's not to say that you can't think about things that maybe were bad. And it certainly is not to say you have to do the toxic positivity, right? You don't have to be like, everything's great and everything happens for a reason and this is great, right? Like you don't go to that extreme, right? But it's fine to kind of have those things that were icky, right? Our thorns and our rosebud thorn. Make sure that you also remember the roses and the buds, right? And that you don't constantly think about the thorns. So how do you do that? Oftentimes, what research basically suggests is the idea of gratitude, right? So if you can think of one thing that you are grateful for today, or one thing that you are grateful for in 2021, sometimes that pulls you out of the, yes, there are these bad things, but I am grateful for, and it can be something small. It can be something big, right? But it definitely is something that you really kind of want to think about. So I'm going to go ahead. Here's some areas to consider if you're still kind of struggling a lot. And I saw Yeah, and Katie's saying, I started off strong, but 21 is a lot. Yes, I totally hear that. And the other thing too is, remember, you don't have to do this all today, right? You don't have to do this red hot second while we're on this call. This is, a lot of times our socials are really that jumping off point, right? Like that thing that kind of gets our brains thinking about it. I found myself when I did my 21 things, it was hard for me to think of 21, but then afterward, after I kind of stopped and I went and then, did something else, the shower is a great place where things will pop into your head because you can't really write anything down. Again, there's lots of studies about when you're doing something kind of physical or kinesthetic that doesn't necessarily require you to be constantly thinking. Sometimes other things will pop into your head. So if you can only think of 10 this morning, write down those 10 and then let yourself over this next week or so kind of see what other things might pop into your head. And I saw Sarah had posted, she had 5 items that are related to funeral and loss. And I know many of us lost someone last year. And that is really tough to lose someone. But writing that down and kind of thinking about that and what did that make you think of? How did that make you feel? How did that make you want to move forward? People have all sorts of different things. And again, I am not saying the toxic positivity piece. You're not supposed to be like, here's all the great things. And the other thing too that I've read is don't say things like, well, so-and-so has it worse than me, so I shouldn't feel bad about these things. It's okay to feel bad about things. You don't have to compare your level of grief or your level of bad things with other people's, right? And I saw Laura wanted to see the other slide. Whoops, that's mine. So this one, right, Laura? The other thing I recommend to people too is sometimes when we're going through some of these slides is to take a quick snap with I don't know why I do it like this. Cell phones don't work like a camera. It's just like that universal sign of take a picture. But take a picture of some of these slides or screenshot so that you can go back later. But I'm happy to kind of pop around back and forth so that people can see. So again, what I want to do, and I see lots and lots of good stuff in the chat. So I want to give you, again, some time to maybe scroll through the chat and read, some time to write. And then I'm just going to play a little bit of music and then I'll pop back on, see how people are doing, kind of see how things are going, offer some more suggestions, and then we'll keep moving. right. So I'm seeing lots of really, really good reflecting, and there's good things and there's bad things, and there's been struggles and there's been people overcoming. Someone got their PhD. Lots of good stories about puppies, right? People getting different puppies, leaving guilt behind, right? Learning to stand for themselves. See, looking through some of those, and you know, one of the things I see, people are like, oh, my photos are really reminding me of so many great memories, right? Because let's be honest, we usually don't take pictures of the bad memories. We take pictures of the good memories. One of the things my husband and I do, well, my husband primarily does it, but he sets up at the beginning of the year, he sets up we do a yearbook. And so he sets it up at Costco. Costco has like the online picture printing, and they do the books and prints and those kinds of things. So he sets it up every year. And then at the end of every month, he goes through our different pictures, stuff we've posted, you know, on Facebook or Instagram, things we have, and then puts those in for each month. And then at the end of the year, we have this amazing yearbook. And then he prints out the yearbook, which they're not, I don't think they're terribly expensive. I honestly don't know exactly how much they are because he takes care of that. But it's really nice to be able to kind of go back sometimes and say, oh, what were we doing in 2018? Oh, let's look through this book and see places that we went and things that we did, and you know, places that we you know, went, and think maybe things that we want to do, right? It kind of helps us spur that idea of moving forward. So let's see, what else do I see? Some folks had some different surgeries. I saw somebody had hurt their upper arm, saw foot surgery, right? Kind of hopefully healing from that and staying healthy and happy and trying to kind of keep moving through with that. Goat yoga. I saw somebody say they tried goat. I've heard fun things about it and seen fun videos. That's the other thing too. Sometimes this is a really good activity to reflect on what you did last year, but you could also make a list of 22 things that you want to do or things that you want to experience in 2022. I think that's another fun way to kind of think of things that you can do and think of ways that you can kind of make sure that 2022 is including some of those things that will really bring you joy. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to put on a little more music. I've been really enjoying reading all the different fun comments. Yeah, Cheyenne, totally. The 22 ideas for this year is fantastic. I had put the 21 things prompt back up there for some of our folks who came in. And then we had these ideas for ways that you can kind of move forward, things that you can kind of think of, different areas. And these are those, again, those areas to consider if you're still maybe thinking like, gosh, I am having a hard time coming up with the 21 things. I'll pop up, here's my list. And I'll be honest, a lot of those, most of those first ones, right, kind of going through like the first 8, or actually probably more down to 11, were places that we went, right? Well, some of them weren't. Anyway, it was kind of like throwing different things out and ways that I track things. So we did actually, it's funny to think, but we actually started doing these Silk and Sonder things back in March of last year. And I'm like, gosh, that was just in 2021. It feels like it was longer. I like to keep track of how many books I read. So I have that in the Goodreads app that I keep track of. I was very excited to pay off my credit card debt. I saw someone in here paid off their student loans. Kudos to you for that. That's a huge one, huge hurdle to kind of get over. I'm a knitter, so I keep track of kind of how many projects that I completed. So I use the website Ravelry to keep track of that. And I had completed 14 projects last year, which actually was more than I thought I had done. So that was good. And if you are on, like if you allow Google to kind of track your places that you go, they give you like a nice little yearly summary. So it said, I have traveled one time around the world, 24,884 miles, right? On my Google timeline, it tells me how many times around the world I have gone. And I saw someone asking how people track their books besides Goodreads. I have seen mention of some other things to track reading, but I don't have them right offhand. So maybe somebody can share oh yeah, Storygraph is one that I heard of, Kim. Let's see, we did some fun visits. I went to visit a friend in Bellingham during that crazy week in June when they were having 100-degree temperatures. That wasn't super fun to be up there in Washington when it was 100 degrees. My dad turned 80, and we went. I went to Arkansas to visit him. We took several trips to Disneyland once that kind of had reopened. Went axe throwing. Let me just say, if you have any place to go axe throwing, I highly recommend it. It's super, super fun. And I was like, ooh, a apocalyptic life skill, right? Throwing an axe, super fun. A little dangerous, maybe it was but it was, in a very controlled environment. So that was fun. Went to a sunflower farm. We discovered a really awesome new French restaurant here in town. Learning to bake different things. So I made if you're any Ted Lasso fans out there, I learned how to make the Ted Lasso's biscuits, which are we call them cookies, shortbread cookies. Love that show. If you haven't watched Ted Lasso, again, highly recommend that because it's really good with talking about positivity, but also in a productive positivity way, right? We went to Joshua Tree National Park. I was super consistent with Duolingo. I've been working on my Spanish. So I've been kind of keeping up the streak there. There was a cool Dolly exhibit at the Botanic Gardens in May that we went to. So Pamela said she did a pedal bar. Is that the one where you do the bike and you pedal the bike like around town and you're like drinking? Or well, I did that one time in Austin, which was hilarious. But yeah, super fun. I did my 500th ride at Cycle Bar, which interestingly enough, I haven't been going lately. I did a Knit for Food event where we raised money for folks. I lost my grandmother in November, which was tough, made the holidays tough. I stopped shoulding myself. Have you ever heard that phrase? Like, don't should yourself, you're going to should yourself to death, right? I noticed in my journals when I would write, I would say things like, I should, da-da-da-da-da, or I should have, da-da-da-da. And I started circling how many times I said I should. And it's one of those things when we say we should, like, according to who, right? What is this should? Do you want to? Do you need to? Or where are you getting that whole should thing from, right? We're leaving should in 2021. Absolutely, Brittany. And I also, I kicked diet culture to the curb. I have, as many people can probably identify with, I've been on one diet or another, lost weight, gained weight, all that kind of stuff. Jude, yes, I am in Denver. I'm in Aurora. I'm over by Cherry Creek Reservoir. And, the diet culture thing, I read more and more interesting studies about it. And I'm really more into the intuitive eating now. I'm really just kind of trying to get away from that, doing more movement that's fun, things that I like. So those are just kind of my, and then it's funny because it was really hard for me to come up with the 21, but boy, once I started and then I kind of walked away from it for a little while, lots more stuff started popping up. So I think what I'll do is I'll just stop talking and I'll let you spend some more time writing, some more time thinking. And I love reading in the chat, seeing some of the different things. And I know other folks like to read that as well. So I'm just going to play a little music and then I will pop back on. So how are we doing? Again, and I know a lot of people are like, the chat goes so fast. I can't see everything that's on there. So that's why a lot of times I try to kind of read through for everybody and write. But I did notice a lot of people were saying, oh my gosh, when I started this, I was like, there's no way I can come up with 21. And now they have way more than 21, right? Because I do think a lot of times we assume 21 things and, that happened in 21, they have to be some huge, big, or expensive or time consuming things that happen. And it doesn't really have to be that way. Right. And I see, Brittany is saying she might start doing this every month. As someone with depressive episodes, it's so easy to get bogged down in the neutral or bad things that she forgets about the good stuff. And I think that is true 100%. I think that, again, like I said in the beginning, there's tons and tons of research out there that says our brains are wired to pick up and hold on to the bad things because it thinks it's helping us, right? Kind of like autocorrect, when you type words, it thinks it's helping us by giving us another word. And we're like, no, autocorrect, I did not mean, whatever. Our brains think it's helping us by saying like, oh, this bad thing happened. We need to hold on to this. We need to remember this so it doesn't happen again. So we make sure that things don't happen, but we don't always hold on to it in the best way, right? We hold on to it in a way that we can't move forward. So what I try to do sometimes with some of the bad things or the maybe more neutral things or, things that I kind of think of from the year is think of, okay, what did I learn from this? What did I get from this? And sometimes maybe it's like that so-and-so is just a really bad person for me to be around, right? And I am not going to, I'm not going to be around that person anymore. And, it's okay to remove really toxic people from your lives or really toxic things from your life that you maybe think you should do or you should keep, but you don't have to. And Jennifer is reminding us of the page each month that will have the start, stop, and continue when we do the monthly reflections. And again, so you can kind of go back and say, what things do I want to start? What things do I want to stop? Right. And one of the things that I really had to try to work on stopping in 2021 was impulse buying. I was so bad. I was such a sucker. I was Instagram's best customer, right? Because they would show these different things and I would just click on them and buy them. And I spent way more money than I should have. Well, there we go with the should again. Way more money that I wanted to be spending on things that maybe weren't necessarily helpful, right? And so, yeah, right. So Kathleen's like, Instagram should just have a direct line to my checking account. They kind of do with mine. Like, you have your credit card information saved in there. So I had to physically make myself stop doing that. I took out, erased a lot of the credit cards information that was holding. And I would tell myself, if I see something and I want it, I can write it down. And then if I give myself 24 hours, if I still really want it in 24 hours, I can go back and get it. And honestly, I would say probably 9.5 times out of 10, I was like, no, I don't really want that. So I was kind of making myself ask, like, do I really need this? Is there something else that I have that I could use instead of this? And what need is this filling, right? Because a lot of times there is kind of some sort of need that you're filling. So the 24-hour, think about it, right? Pause, wait, do I really, really want, and every once in a while there'd be something I'm like, you know what? No, I've thought about it. I really do want that. Sometimes it's good because you can kind of poke around and find something cheaper instead of that impulse buy. I'm also a total sucker for anything that says it's limited edition, right? I'm with the knitting and the yarn, right? I'm like such a sucker for anything. Oh, it's limited edition color. It's a limited edition blend of fibers or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I must have it. So I've stopped myself from doing that. The other thing that I did that helped me stop that was unsubscribing from a ton of emails, right? Because I would get so many emails and I'd be like, ooh, yes, I want that, right? Or yeah, it's on sale, right? Isabel's like, oh yeah, it's on sale. Oh, it's such a great price. Well, it's not really a great price if you didn't really need it to begin with. So yeah, the yarn stash is a real thing, but once I got rid of a lot of those emails, it stopped. It was that because it was reminding me, right? I'd see an email and see some new limited edition thing, and I'd be like, I must have this limited edition. My friends joke, they're all like, oh my, it's limited edition. Get rid of the emails. It removes that trigger in your brain, right? And really kind of helps with moving forward. So hopefully you have at least a good start on your list. And you could also, you probably, if you think about it, you could come up with 21 things you want to do this year, 21 things you want to stop this year, any of those kinds of things, right? And really kind of thinking about how you kind of want to move forward. I've definitely been trying to decide I want to spend my money more on experiences. Last night we went to a comedy show, which was a little nerve-wracking because I was like, oh gosh, there's going to be a lot of people there, but people had masks and they did have to show proof of vaccination, and they kind of had more spaced out seating than what they used to have before the pandemic. And it was so fun. And so having those kind of experiences is really helpful. Gina, sometimes if you're on a computer, if you click in the chat and start to kind of scroll backwards, it will stop it from moving forward on the chat, because I know the chat goes by super fast, so it sometimes is kind of hard to see. It's harder to try to do on a phone or an iPad. The other thing I would love for you to do now that we're kind of toward the end, you can take a picture of your 21 things, or maybe take a picture of just a few of the 21 things if some are too personal and you don't want to share. Sharing those in the Sonder Club app. If you don't have the Sonder Club app, you can also share them on Instagram. And you can do the hashtag Sonder Club or hashtag Sonder Fam or hashtag Silk and Sonder. And then we can find, folks can find those pretty easily. And so sharing those pictures, sharing your thoughts on Sonder Club is great. It's you don't have to have Sonder Club to be participating in these journals, but it is a fun place. I like it because it doesn't distract me like Facebook does, where I'm on Facebook and scrolling. At least this is very focused on things for Sonder, things that are specific to Sonder Club. And then you can also scan this. Here's the QR code to take this survey. I think Jennifer's going to pop a link in there to take this survey as well. And you can let us know if there's some things that you would like to see in some of these socials. Honestly, all of these socials, a lot of the topics, a lot of the things that we do have come about because of your suggestions. So the more things that you can suggest that you want to see, things that you would like, the more we can tailor things to you, because the folks at Silk and Sonder, we really take your feedback to heart. If there's anything that we're doing that we can do better, we definitely want to do that as much as possible for you. So we've come up to our time. Thank you so much for being here. I loved all the comments and the ideas. I love being with everyone here in the morning. This is a really fun, energizing way for me to start my morning. Thanks to Jennifer for being in our chat and helping folks make sure things are going well. I hope you all have a fabulous week. And hopefully I will see you in more of our Sonder Socials. Have a good one.
Don't give up, the future starts now. Just let your heart decide. Let it change your life tonight. Yeah, you're almost there. You can almost touch the light. If you're lost and you find that you need somebody in the dark, baby, don't you know the future starts now?